Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker, and I'm pleased to stand and contribute to the estimates report of the Community Services Committee, and I thank those members of the committee as well, on both sides of the House, as well as the Secretariat. I'm also pleased to be going after the Minister today in the House. In my 4 years in this Parliament and having sat through estimates 4 times now as well, Mr Deputy Speaker, I have to say, of the 3 ministers I have faced off across, this minister was the least across the brief of child safety that I've experienced. And Mr Deputy Speaker, when asked of the minister of her experience in engaging with the residential care system, a system that is under enormous stress in this state, a system that's actually in crisis, it was uncovered that the minister had only visited a residential care facility in the past month, since being appointed minister earlier this year. And after releasing, in fact, and signing off on a residential review into Resi Care and a roadmap that outlines under this government that they will reduce residential care attendance by 50% or aim for a 50% reduction over the course of the next 5 years. Well, what we've seen over the previous 5 years, Mr Deputy Speaker, is an increase in residential care by 85%. How this government thinks they are going to tackle that challenge when a review is released that doesn't even address children under 12, which was what the former minister, Minister Crawford, outlined was going to be the commitment, was to reduce numbers of children under 12. When we have babies, Mr Deputy Speaker, and children aged 5 and 6 in residential care facilities being put to bed at night by one carer, being woken up the next morning by another carer, the minister and the Labor government need to understand what is the role of a parent, what is the rights and obligations of the minister when it comes to our most vulnerable children in this state, Mr Deputy Speaker. I think it is to speak to children. It is to hear their views. It is to engage and visit residential care facilities like I have and engage with the sector, with those young people, to understand what 36 placements does to the mental health and well-being of a child, our most vulnerable child. And I point to Dylan, who's been in residential care in Cairns since the age of 2 and is now 17 and has had over 36 placements, Mr Deputy Speaker. When I am approached by young people, when I am out and about over their lived experience under this current failed Labor government, ministers should be ashamed that they have abdicated their rights as parents to these children. Despite the number of children in residential care growing, we now see a 105% increase since 2019, 1,955 children as of March this year. It is disgraceful. It is the highest of figures of any other state jurisdiction, and it is a demonstration that this Labor government has failed both in child safety and in the way in which it has used the residential care system that was never designed to be how it's being used by this government. The minister also outlined that the department confirmed that about 25% of the whole cohort of children in out-of-home care are experiencing disruption to schooling through suspensions or being expelled. That is unacceptable, Mr Deputy Speaker. When also reviewing the caseloads of those of our frontline workers, the caseloads that in my community of Mackay and the Whitsundays, where vacancy rates are significantly high, where child safety officers are dealing with up to 60 cases, Mr Deputy Speaker, it is unacceptable. That is not a government that is putting their frontline workforce first. That is not a government that is respecting the services that are needed. And, Mr Deputy Speaker, when we see, once again, that caseloads are being averaged out over funded positions, something similar to what they do with the police numbers, Mr Deputy Speaker, it doesn't cover what the true extent is of the workload pressures of those frontline services. This was the third Labor child safety minister to face estimates in the term, and the lack of priority being placed on our most vulnerable children will continue to see poor outcomes, which we have seen demonstrated by this government, and the fact that we have a crisis that is now child safety and a crisis that has been linked to the youth justice crisis in this state.